Welcome back, Novello Nation, to another episode of the Aaron Novello podcast. I have with us a boss. He's a super cool dude. He has a really awesome message. He's doing really good things, not only for his community, but in other communities. He's a real estate investor, an author, and an entrepreneur, Mr. Henry Washington. Appreciate you taking the time to be with me, brother.
Hey, man. Thanks for having me. This is awesome, man. I love it.
Yeah, my pleasure. So I had the good fortune. I met you on another podcast that I was co-hosting, and I really enjoyed your energy. I really enjoyed your message and reached out to you, and you were kind enough to provide us some time. And I always like to bring people to the platform that I really think can add tremendous value. And your story is pretty wild, and it's pretty inspiring for a lot of people because, I think there's this common, kind of misperception is that it takes money to make money. Yeah. And my experience is that it takes courage to make money and some knowledge and some information, right? So if you would real kindly, briefly, kind of tell us the story of how you got involved in real estate as an investor.
Yeah, man, for sure. Before I started investing, I was working a corporate gig. I felt like in life I had done all the things that society tells you to do, right? Like I went to school, got good grades, went to college, got my degree. I got a high value degree, a technology degree, and then I started working for a company, right? And so I checked all the boxes and I was making a 6-figure income. And but every 2 weeks, man, I'd get paid and then I'd run out of money before my next paycheck. And when I was single, that didn't bother me. But then I got married and that absolutely bothered my wife. And so that was the first thing that was all right, well, maybe you need to do something a little different, but it still didn't really click in my brain because again, I was doing the things everybody said to do. So I just thought eventually I would have enough money to enjoy life if I just kept doing those things. And so, then my wife and I tried to buy a house together. And when we applied for the loan, the mortgage officer essentially said, hey, we're okay loaning to your wife as long as you're not on the note. And that was the huge wake up call for me because I was like, what do you mean? I make way more money than her. And they were like, yeah, your credit's bad. You're you make money, but you don't have money. And it was just this wake up call that you can't even provide for your wife and you think you're doing things the right way. And so that was a big blow to my ego and a punch in the gut because I didn't know what to fix or how to fix it or anything. And then the final straw, I guess you could say, was as my wife and I a few weeks later, we're having a conversation. We're laying in bed talking about our future. And, as newly married couples do, right? We were talking about what our dream house would look like and, where we would live, how many kids we would have, what vacations we would go on. And I just remember panicking in the back of my mind because I was I can't afford to give her any of these things. We barely got in the house that we have now and the bank didn't let me on the loan. How can I afford a dream home? And so I just went through this literal panic attack because I woke up cold sweat in the middle of the night because I was she's going to leave me. She's going to figure out that I just look good on paper. When you really started doing the math, it wasn't that solid. And so I just was panicking. And so I started to do what anybody does at a panic attack at 3 a.m. about money is I just started Googling, how can I make more money? That's when I found real estate and, a light bulb went off as I was reading about these different people who were investing in real estate. And the light bulb was these are just regular people. They're just regular people who bought some rental properties and they're either living a great life, supplementing their retirement, or eliminating their day jobs. And I was my first thought was well, okay, if they can do it, I know I can do it. I never had any doubt that I could figure it out. And I was so motivated to figure it out that I literally made the decision at 3 a.m. that I was going to figure it out. I told myself, all right, you're going to figure out how to be a real estate investor and you're going to be good at it. And that brought this calm over my spirit. And I went back to sleep, man. And so I just, that decision led me to all these other micro decisions along the way. And 90 days later, I had my first house under contract.
That's awesome, brother. And that's such a cool thing that you experienced that you had. And what I wrote down was just interesting because you were doing what a lot of us do is you were just following conventional they say conventional wisdom, but conventional information.
Yeah.
And what I've learned is like, if knowledge equals power, what if I have the wrong knowledge? That becomes very problematic. So
Right.
it's like we were following these like normal kind of, okay, I get a good job, I get a good degree and this sort of thing. And you begin to recognize like, wait a minute, like that's not going to be able to actually produce what it is that I want.
Right.
And then you made this decision. And I know we talked about it before where like the suffix "I", like it means to kill.
Right.
When I decide like homicide, suicide, genocide, like I kill
Right.
off any other option. So you internally were like, nope, I'm going to do this. I'm gonna be great at it, brought peace over you. And then you know, were like, okay, good. And you went back to sleep. So my question is then, because here you were, you had the like internal motivation, a motive to take action. You had a lot of reasons why to do this thing, right?
Yep.
But then you made this decision, but then you don't really know what you're doing. So
Right.
it's like, all right, so then what did you do?
Yeah, man. And so I think I benefited from a few things there, right? First being my father was always an entrepreneur on the side, like, and so he was a high school art teacher for his career, but he always ran like little side hustles. He owned an arcade at one point. He owned a barbecue restaurant for years. He used to pot plants at home and then sell them at the swap meet, and like, so he would always hustle for extra money. He never talked to me in life about like, you need to have a side hustle or you should start a business. Like, that was never the conversation. The conversation was always get good grades, get a degree, right, and provide for your family, work to your 60, retire, right? That was always what he wanted me to do. And so when it came time for me to decide to do something like this on the side, like, I never thought I couldn't do it. I saw my dad do it for years. And so like that part kind of came into play right away because I wasn't scared to start a business. I figured I could figure it out. And then yeah, I've just always been a ready, fire, aim kind of person. Like jump off the cliff, open the parachute on the way down. And so like those things combined, I didn't feel like I needed to know how. I just feel like I needed to know who knows how, and then I'd figure it out.
That's awesome. So instead of what, it was who.
Yeah.
And I think
Yeah.
that there's like success leaves clues. So like there's this formula where like I'm imagining what you did is you got proximity to the right who's, and they showed you how.
100%, man. And proximity nowadays, we're so blessed that like you and me are across the country, but we're in proximity right now.
Yep.
Right. And so like people who are wanting to get started, it's easier than ever because you can put yourself in the room virtually with people who can give you that information. And so like your who now has vastly grown. Whereas like 10 years ago, if you wanted to learn how to be a real estate investor, you had to go find somebody in your backyard who was successful. Now you can just do a Google search, right? And then join their group, buy their course, right? Like there's ways to get that proximity fairly easily. And so, yeah, man, my first step literally was start fixing my credit, start saving some money, and figure out where real estate investors meet, and then be in the room. And so, like, I didn't even know what a real estate investment association was. I had no idea what a RIA was. I literally just typed in Google real estate investors meetings, right? Because I was like, if they're meeting, I'm gonna go. That like I'm going to that meeting. Like if I can't get in, I'm sneaking in, right? That was my mindset. And so like I found real estate investment meetups, and like literally every week they met 3 times a month for different types of meetings. They like had little breakout sessions. Like I would say for 6 to 8, almost a year straight, I was at every single meeting I could be in. And it's not that I had all this value to give to the room. It was just like, if they're in the room talking about this stuff, I'm going to be there, period. Because I'm trying to figure this out.
Yeah. And what's interesting about that is, again, success leaves clues. So you made a decision, and then so you decided, you cut off any other option. Then it was like, okay, it's not what, it's who.
Mhm.
If knowledge equals power, I need the right knowledge. You
That's
put
right.
yourself in proximity with people who had the knowledge.
That's right.
And what's fascinating is like that seems like that's like,
It seems
wow,
easy,
like,
right? Yeah.
yeah,
Piece of
right, like
cake.
that piece of cake. So and it's interesting that for some reason, like, I think effective communication is taking people from confusion to clarity.
Yeah.
And like, you know, part of what we're doing here is like
Yeah.
taking something that seems like really like like complicated or whatever, and just whittling it down to like its simple form. It's like decide who, not what, get yourself in proximity to the right information. But then there comes a point of taking action. So
Right.
talk to me about, because it seems like what my experience is as a coach and consultant is that if they go out and get the right information, they're very clear on what they want, but they're still not doing it, there's an internal conflict.
Yeah,
And it
100%.
seems like for you, there was no internal conflict. So what I'm imagining part of your kind of superpower has been not only following that kind of pathway, but it's also been that once you got the information, you acted on it immediately.
Yeah, 100%. So put myself in the rooms, started to see what other people were doing. Also at the same time was educating myself. And so books, podcasts, anything I could get my hands on. If I was in the car, I was listening to books, I was listening to podcasts, right? And so like I just always had these like I would just start with any real estate podcast, right? Anything. Like if it's real estate information, I'm putting it in my brain. But what you start to notice is after you listen to a couple of episodes, one of those might be that sticks in your brain, right? And so as the thing would stick in my brain, I would go, all right, that's what I want to dive deeper on. And so then I'd find another podcast or a book or something on that subject, right? And so kind of what I ended up focusing on was lead generation. Eric, I was like, I just need to find good deals, right? And so how do people find good deals? They do off-market marketing, right? Like, and so the way I landed on that was because I was in the room with all these investors actively doing deals. The one thing, that pain point they all always expressed was like, I'm a buyer, I want to do deals. There's no good deals out there right now. It's hard to find deals. And this was pre-COVID and all that. Like everybody just always thinks there's no deals. No matter if the market's hot or cold, they're just like, it's too hard to find deals. And so I was like, all right, well, if I can solve that problem for them, then I'll always be able to make money. There's a room full of people who will buy good deals if I can find them. And so that became what I focused in on. I didn't worry about anything else. I didn't worry about how I was going to finance them. I didn't worry about who was going to renovate them. Like I didn't worry about like who the title company was going to be, like all those things that don't matter until you have a deal. I just blocked out and I said, all right, I'm going to figure out how to generate leads and find good deals. And then when I get one, I'll go figure then I'll have to go figure the rest out. And so that kind of helped me put the blinders on and made it easier to take action because real estate's so powerful. There's so many ways to get into the game. You can, syndicate, you can use banks, you can go small, you can go big. Like and I just was like, nope. Find out what's a good deal, figure out how to find good deals, get a good deal on the hook, and then take it to one of these investors I've been around and be like, hey, I have this thing, help me get it done. Right. That was my plan.
Yeah. And I think that there's like exceptional power behind that because what I'm aware of is like truth is truth is truth. And I heard Elon Musk say one time, they were like, how do you innovate in so many different industries? And he's like, well, my experience is knowledge is like a tree. And before I go out to the branches, I want to know the trunk. And once I get to the trunk, then it usually is applicable to all these other branches. So what you said was so interesting. What rang with me is that, in my residential resale business, we list property, and that's about finding the inventory.
Right.
And if you find the inventory, I promise you, doesn't matter who your broker is, doesn't matter, everything else works. Everything else will fall into place. And that's the same fundamental truth here where you just kind of notice like, wait a minute, if I can find the deal, then I can figure out everything else. Like that's right. It's the highest.
Or I won't have to because somebody else will want that deal so bad, they'll go figure it out.
Yeah. And then I could do a JV with them. I could be like, let me just partner. I'll get 50%. You figure it out. But then while they're figuring it out, what am I doing?
Learning.
I'm watching you, bro.
100%. Hey,
show me how you do that. What'd you do this? What does that mean? Like, right? And as time progresses, like you do enough of those, you keep bringing deals to people. And then it's funny because today I was on a group coaching call and I get a text from someone in the office saying to me like, hey, I know you have a lot of listings. I have all these buyers. And it's like, you become like the guy. Everybody wants to talk to the person who has inventory or who has deals.
That's right, man.
Right?
That's right. And you build this reputation that people want to connect with you. You sold somebody a deal they made thousands of dollars on. Yeah, I want to know that guy. Right.
100%.
You text, they answer. You call, they answer.
And when you call, they're really happy to hear from you.
Yes, yeah, yeah.
They're like, "Oh, Henry." What'll happen is they'll pick up the phone. They'll be like, "Hello," and you're like, "Yeah, I'm looking to speak to Jonathan." They're like, "Yeah, who's this?" And you'll be like, "It's Henry Washington." They're like, "Oh, Henry!"
Right,
Oh,
100%.
like,
Yeah, man.
like my best friend, like long lost buddy. You know what I mean?
Right, right. And they don't care how long you've been in the game. None of that matters. All they know is you're out here finding these deals. These deals make them money. You're their friend.
Yep. Period.
Yep.
And they're willing to help you because you
That's
have
right.
something that they want or need.
And it's not just right. And so yes, very true. You do have something they want or need, but what they aren't telling you is there's some trust there, because what everybody else isn't doing is, one, bringing them value, and two, taking the action. They know, like, this guy didn't have any experience, but he went out there, he put his effort in, he put some skin in the game, and he went out and made something happen. So like, I feel comfortable working with you because most people who are new investors aren't willing to throw themselves in the game like that. They want to dip their toe in because they're like, well, it's kind of risky, so I'll try a little bit, and then maybe
it's like, well, if it works out, great. If it doesn't, that's okay too. You know what I mean?
And then they want help from somebody without providing any value,
either without providing any value or paying, which is like, come on, bro. Like, that's like immature. That's not the way.
Right.
I was on a call today on Clubhouse, and this guy asked me for something, and I give the majority of what we do away, but he's a young guy, and just to prove a point, I was like, listen, brother. He's like, well, could I have like this thing that you send out? I was like, no. And he got quiet, like, oh. Yeah. And I was like, listen, my intention in saying no to you was not that I'm not going to give it to you. I was just trying to get your attention. But what I need you to understand is that there's two types of people in life. There are people that take all the time, take, ask, take. And then there are people that are give. Then maybe I ask you for something.
Right.
And what I'm aware of is I'm noticing a pattern, is that because he was like, yeah, bro, you're my biggest influence. Like, I listen to all your stuff. I'm like, okay. But it's like, what are you contributing? What value are you adding to that person? So if you want to get proximity to them, it doesn't always have to be money, but to imagine that there's not some sort of value exchange going to happen, that's immature.
Right. And people, I think people think too hard, not to go off on this tangent, but I think it's a valuable tangent, right? Like, I think people think too hard about what value can be, right? Like, value can be like, people just think, well, I don't have a deal to give you. I don't have money to give you, right? I don't have a whole lot of time to give you. But so an example I have is this girl from Instagram reached out to me via DM and asked me to do an Instagram live with her. Never met her, didn't know much about her or her business. But as soon as she asked me, I said yes immediately. Right. And I jumped on the live and we talked about it. And then we ended up talking about exactly this. And I said, do you know why I decided to do this live after not even knowing who you are? And I said, look, I've had my Instagram page for a few years now, and she just consistently posts, comments on my stuff, positivity, adds value, engages with people on my feed, right? Like, engages with me, like, even if I don't respond, like, every time I post, she's got something positive to add value to it, right? And that adds value, that helps my posts do better, that helps people see the value in what I'm producing for people. And so when I saw that she wanted to do a live, because she had been giving, right? And then when she wanted, then she asked me for something and I was there, hands down.
Yeah. Right. Like no questions asked. Like, yeah, of course.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's and in that moment is what I was, because he's a young guy, and I'm like attempting to be like, hey, brother, I'm aware that you can go through life that way, but I promise you, your capacity to influence others will be dramatically diminished.
Yeah.
Versus if you go into the mindset, like, yeah, I'm going to give, then maybe I'll ask for something. Like, you will be able to, your impact will be dramatically expanded exponentially.
That's right, man.
Yeah. And I think it's so important that people hear that, because, they might see like you on a panel or whatever. And like you said, they think too hard about how can I add value, but value can be energy. Like, I just vibed with you on a podcast. I was like, dude, this guy's cool. Like, I like his energy. Like, this is cool. And apparently maybe you felt the same way. So when I reach out to you, you're like, yeah, no
Yeah,
question. Like, yep, let's
absolutely.
go. Right.
Absolutely.
And
Yeah, man. And it's don't overthink it. There's something that you can do or give. You literally, especially if you're watching somebody every day, just comment on their posts, right? Just be positivity on their feed. That's helpful.
yeah, it's super helpful. So you went on this journey, you use that formula. If we were to kind of break it down to like chemistry, here's the building blocks that you need. First, I got to decide. Then it's who, not what. Then I got to get proximity to those who. I got to add value to those people. So there's a value exchange. I get the
Yep.
right information. You start taking action. And then here you are a relatively short amount of time later. It's not like
Yep.
we're talking about like decades later.
Right.
And you've amassed like a pretty meaningful portfolio, right?
Yeah, man. Yeah, man. We're in between 65 and 75 doors somewhere. We're buying, we're selling. So
It's so exciting. Hey, he can't even hold back the smile. You guys can't see him right now. It's
yeah.
like ear to ear, like, I don't know. 60, 75. I don't know. Right. It's like
Yeah.
what Drake says. We're like, how much money did you make? He's like, I don't know. It's a lot. I forgot.
Right. Good problems to have, my man. Good
Yeah,
problems
man.
to have.
It's super good problem. So now what I think is interesting is because the other thing, like I really connected with you on is as we were having this conversation on another podcast, like I noticed something and I noticed that like you really feel that what you're doing is very mission and purpose driven. And I see a lot of folks who gravitate towards whether it's like, some sort of guru or some sort of teacher, really only for one thing. And it's really just to make a lot of money. And there's nothing wrong with making a lot of money. Me and you like a lot of money. We like the things that money buys. Like I get all of that. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm just aware that I think part of the reason why people limit their capacity is because it's only that and there's not another mission behind it. So if you could, because I think it's a really awesome message that people could kind of hear, is as you're doing this and you'll continue to grow and you'll go to 100, 200 doors and like it'll just keep getting bigger and you'll keep growing. But behind it, like what is your mission and purpose and how do you think about that as you're doing this?
Yeah, man. So it's kind of like this twofold thing. So I started to notice as I studied investing in real estate, especially the art of getting deals, is that you're essentially looking to buy situations and not necessarily buying houses, right? And that's typically because the person who you're buying a home from has to sell to you at a discount. And the only reason someone's going to sell their property at a discount is if they have to, right? Is if they don't have an option to sell at retail value, right? And typically that's because they're in some sort of a jam. And you buying their home is essentially helping them out of that jam. And what I noticed was as I was meeting these people, um, that when I did buy a house that someone had been trying to sell and couldn't, that someone, it had been weighing on them for so long and they didn't know that they just didn't know a way out. And then I come in and give them a way out, like the tears and the relief that and I just realized that like, this is like, I'm truly helping people. And then I started to notice that like, sometimes I could be of service to people and not buy their house. And I felt this responsibility to do that, obviously, where it makes sense. I'm not going to put my family on the street because I'm taking care of somebody else's family. But it doesn't mean that I can't help someone, even if I don't buy their house. Right. Because if you are in this type of a situation, you probably don't realize what your options are. And so I try to present everybody with all the options. Whether they go with me or not, that's fine. I can sleep at night knowing, like I told you, what I think. I'll tell people too. I'll say, look, man, here's what I would do if I was in your shoes, right? I wouldn't sell to me, right? I would do it this way. And then if they still want to work with me, that's great. But at least I have the information. But what I try to do, man, it's like I've walked into people's homes and like I've had people try to sell me their house because they needed to fix their car so they could go to work. And so they just figure they sell their house to get the money to fix their car so they can go to work. They'll just rent an apartment. They didn't need to sell their house. They needed to fix their car. So we fixed their car, right? Because that's what they needed. And I could do that. So I did it, right? I've walked into somebody's house who wanted me to make an offer, told me over and over again they wanted me to make an offer. But it didn't feel like they wanted me to make an offer. It felt like they really wanted to be in their home. And so I said, well, why do you want me to make you an offer? Because it doesn't feel like that's what you want. And that's when I found out they were 2 months behind, in danger of foreclosure. And they just would rather sell to get something than lose it and get nothing. And I said, well, it doesn't sound like you want to sell your home. It sounds like you need time. And so we paid their mortgage for 2 months to buy them time to get caught up, right? So they could stay where they want to be. Is that the best like business practice? No, absolutely not. It's a terrible business practice, but it's the right thing to do, right? And if I'm not giving and helping the community that is also helping me build wealth, then I shouldn't be doing this, right? Like this is a people business first, and I'm going to always try to take care of people. And if that means, you know, I don't buy every deal, that's okay. There'll be another deal. Money will come if you take care of people. And I guess that's just a lesson I had to learn. Something I saw on the front side, that like, I don't feel like God put me in this position to buy a bunch of houses and make a bunch of money. I feel like I was put here so that I could help every person that I come across. And because I'm more interested in being of service than I am of making every last dollar that I can. The second part of that is, once I did that first deal and saw how powerful real estate was, and I again felt this overwhelming urge that I needed to share this information with as many people as possible. Because, in households, people of color in our households, like there's typically not a guy or a gal who, was super wealthy, or, had some real estate portfolio, right? It was a lot of people working class, right? Or even lower than that, right? Trying to just survive. And so there's not a lot of financial education that's passed down through the household. And through the household is where financial education is learned, or where it was learned prior to all this technology, right? Like you had to have somebody in your family that was like, hey man, look, this is how you make money for real, right? Because they don't teach it in school, right? Right. So unless you had a family member or some like family mentor, like people didn't learn this. And so I was like, I've got to share this information with people. And that kind of led me to this path to realize that, like, wait a minute, like I wasn't put here to build wealth and leverage all of this information so that I could build wealth for myself. That's not why I'm here. I'm here because I'm supposed to share it. I'm supposed to give. I'm supposed to be able to help people pay their mortgage. I'm supposed to be able to pay for somebody's car so they can keep living. I'm supposed to be able to take the information that was given to me and give it to other people, because then you create this ripple effect of giving and wealth building and growth, and like all these good people doing positive things, right? And I think a lot of the times too, when you look at stories of super wealthy people that amassed wealth and then lost it all, right? There's lots of those stories. If you look really hard, I think you'll find a theme, and that theme is they were focused on money for themselves. Or maybe they weren't at first, but once they started to build it, then it just really became about what they can do for themselves, and they weren't giving it away. They weren't a good steward of the money. They weren't a good steward of the wealth. They weren't a good steward of the information. And I feel like if you're not being a good steward of this wealth and this information that's coming to you, then you'll lose it, right? It'll go away, right? It's about, none of this is for me. None of this is for us. It's for us to share. And I think the sooner people realize that, the more wealth they'll actually be able to build.
Hallelujah, brother. Amen to the congregation. Like that was solid. Like you guys need to listen to what he just said, because it's so powerful that it's interesting. So in your mindset, like your mental map, the way you frame this, the way you're interpreting what's happening, the way you're kind of filtering the data that's coming towards you is like, no, 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 like this isn't, I didn't come across this just for me and my family. I came across this so I could be in a position to share it.
100%.
That is the mission. That is the purpose. So, because I know you got some classes and you could charge way more for those classes, but you don't,
Right.
because it's like, I want to give people access to it. Same thing, like where I have classes on what to say and how to say it for agents, I could charge way more for that stuff. But like, I just want to equip you, man. Like, I want to see what's interesting is what you're doing and what you just said is the difference between playing a game as though you think it's finite or playing a game that's infinite. In a finite game, there's clear rules and regulations. There's time constraints, right? And at the end of the game, we look up at the scoreboard. There's a clear winner and there's a clear loser.
Right.
And what's interesting is I think most people play the game, whether wealth accumulation or whatever, that way, instead of recognizing like, wait a minute, like if we were to go to Las Vegas, right? And let's say we're playing and we're getting chips. Now, in Las Vegas, our intellect, our ability to understand emotional intelligence, our ability to understand probabilities and mathematics, that increases the chances we'll win more chips, just like in life. But that's where the analogy stops, because at the end of Las Vegas, what happens is that somebody taps me on the shoulder, I go, I cash out my chips, they give me money and I leave. But at the end of the game of life or building wealth, somebody taps me on my shoulder, I leave all the chips on the table.
Right. That's
Everything.
right.
I leave them all on the table. And then what happens is they all get redistributed to other humans.
Yes. That's
So
right.
if we think about it that way, if we have that vision, then it changes the way I play. I'm not playing a finite game. I'm playing an infinite game.
That's right.
It's going to go on way after I'm here and way at, like, it'll be keep playing. So how many other players can I equip to play?
Yeah, 100%, man. I love that analogy, because it's like when you're looking at the long game like that, then you're not worried about like, so the house that I paid the people's mortgage, they would have taken my offer. I could have turned around and made 50, 60, $70,000 on that property. People that just think from a business mindset go, you just walked away from 56. That's stupid, right? But it's not about this 50, $60,000, right? It's about treating people right, doing the right thing. And if I do that, there'll be so many more 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, $100,000 options that come my way because of doing the right thing in this situation, right? That's how God works. That's how the universe works. Like, it's just like, if you are a good steward of what you have, you're going to be blessed with more. And so being a good steward of that is also just being a good steward of other people and other people's resources.
Yeah.
You just have to, when you're thinking beyond you, you're always going to have abundance.
That's right. And what I like, I love that. And what it comes up for me is that like life promotes life.
That's right.
Like it promotes things that like encourage it and encourage like expansion. I had a guy reach out to me. He's like, hey, bro, like I'm kind of concerned about you being my coach because you coach somebody else in my market.
Yeah.
I'm like, bro, like, you think like there's not enough? Like, that's crazy to me. There's like $70 million in commissions paid out every month. Like,
Right.
You are worried about that. It's so revealing to me about like that construct mentally.
Yeah.
Like, am I playing a finite game or an infinite game?
That's right, man.
Right. So that's awesome, man. And I love that. And hopefully people get value from hearing us talk about it. So I guess my question to you is, as we kind of wrap up here, is that a lot of agents, because the way our kind of industry is structured, there's no like retirement plan. Like when you're done, there's no like 401k, there's no like, equity, because you don't have equity in the office that you work for or in the mothership, right? So it's really up to us, right, to kind of do something about it. So what would you propose or suggest for agents out there, as far as using real estate as a vehicle to set themselves up when they're done slanging real estate?
All right, man. I have a policy about honesty and ass whoopings.
Yeah.
That's if you ask me for it.
Yeah.
I have to give it to you.
All right, let's go. Let's ride.
Look, man, real estate agents, what's the first two words in that brand, in that title.
Real estate.
You guys have a cheat code. You've got a superpower into wealth, right? Most wealthy people made their wealth through real estate. And the ones that didn't make their wealth through real estate sustain their wealth through real estate, right? Like, not every person uses real estate to get wealthy, but every wealthy person owns real estate, right? So if that's the case, and you guys have like the inside track to all the relationships, all the contractors, all the title companies, all the investors who are selling off their portfolios, all the property management companies, right? Like, you have to have a license to have a property management company, right? Like, so like all the things that you need to sustain a fairly hands-off investment portfolio, a real estate agent has the inside track on it. Pocket listings for good deals, right? Relationships with other investors or other agents who know other investors for good deals, right? Like, you've got it all. You've got it all as an agent, right? You've got access to money because you know lenders, right? If you don't know lenders, then you know private lenders, or you know other buyers that have a bunch of money who would loan. Like, you've got access to all of it as a real estate agent, all of it. And so what's stopping them? What's stopping you, right? As an agent, it's the same thing that stops everybody else, right? It's fear, right? It's fear that, you're going to buy a bad deal, or fear that, something's going to, go haywire, or the market's going to turn, right? Whatever that fear is for you, it's just normal. We've all had that fear, right? But every person has a superpower that they can put to work in their business. And a real estate agent, you get two, because you're still a person outside of being a real estate agent, right? So you still have whatever superpower you had before you were an agent, but now you're also an agent. So you have two superpowers when it comes to being a real estate investor,
Yeah.
right? And so I would say this, man. You need to decide you're going to buy and hold some property, right? Now, the benefit to you being in the business is the opportunities are always going to be there. You're not seeing the opportunities now because you haven't turned your brain on to noticing those opportunities, because you've more so turned your brain off because you're like, yeah, it's risky, I'm scared, right? And so your brain's not looking for them, right? But it's like the red truck, theory. You don't see any red trucks on the road until you go buy a red truck, and then then all you see is red trucks, right? So once you decide, all right, I'm going to buy, just it don't have to be a deep goal. Just say, I'm going to buy a house, I'm going to buy an investment property every year for the next 5 years, right? That gives you 5 houses or duplexes or whatever it is, right? And once you make that decision, in these conversations you're having every day, you're going to start to notice opportunity, right? You're going to hear while you're walking through the office that another agent's got a duplex deal falling out of contract that you think you like the area and maybe you want to buy it, right? Before, you wouldn't have thought anything of it because like, maybe I don't want to list a duplex. It's not what my buyers are looking for, right? And so you pass up on it, but maybe it's a good thing for you. You'll start to hear all these opportunities, right? Pay attention to them. I promise you, as an agent, if you're actively involved in being an agent, like if you're a good agent, like you'll find a couple of good deals a year that you can take down just by doing your job, not even like extra looking, right? Like, so if you put extra effort into it, of course you're going to find some, but as an agent in the business of real estate every day, you're going to stumble over good deals, right? So just decide, I'm going to buy a property or two, and be serious about it. I'm going to buy 1 to 2 properties every year for the next 5 years. Make that decision. That's all you have to do. And I promise you, you're going to start to see the options. You've got the relationships, you've got the lending, you've got all the relationships to take the deal down. At the same time, just start saving some of that commission, right? Pay yourself first, start saving 10%. That way, when it's time to buy, you've got some cash put away. Buy a house or two a year. That's your retirement plan. If in 5 years, if you buy 5 houses in 5 years and then you work for the next, I don't know, 20 years, 25, 30 years, and 30 years, those 5 houses are paid off.
Yep.
And they've appreciated over the last 30 years. just the rent from those properties alone with no debt on them, that's pretty good monthly income that
Yeah,
you can retire off of. And that's just 5 houses. That's 5 doors.
that's it.
That's 2 duplexes and a single. You can do that. You can do that the end of this year if you really want to.
Yeah.
Right.
I love that, brother. And you heard straight from Henry, okay, is that like we have it at our disposal. It's right there. Oftentimes what gets in the way is fear. And I would also propose what happens, what I see is what gets in the way is them thinking like a salesperson. So it's just thinking like, oh, I could just list and sell this place. Instead of thinking like, oh, instead of getting that one-time commission of 10 or 12,000 bucks, what I could do is buy it and get paid for the rest of my life.
That's right.
And
Whoa,
that's a
whoa, whoa.
different,
Delayed gratification. Whoa, 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 whoa.
yeah.
You know, and also too, from a real estate professional standpoint, it's going to open up additional income options for you, because now you're not just somebody who can buy and sell retail real estate, but now you're, because as you start to decide you're going to be an investor, you need to educate yourself more on the investing side of the business, listen to podcasts, read books, whatever it is, right? You're going to start taking in more information. That's going to make you a better agent for real estate investors as well, because there's tons of real estate investors who love a good real estate agent who understands the investing business too. And so now you can take on more clientele, because a lot of real estate investors don't want to work with agents who don't understand investing or don't have investment properties themselves, right? And so now you've opened up this new customer base that you can serve, because now you're going to say, oh, this might be a good deal. This might be a good deal. Or this might be a good deal for so-and-so. Like, I wouldn't buy in this neighborhood, but so-and-so buys in this neighborhood, right? And he loves buying properties at this price point, right? It's going to open up so many more options for you to do more than just buy property for yourself, because you've got more clients you can help now, because you're more educated than most other real estate agents.
You heard it straight from Henry, guys. Listen, he is an awesome human. He's a great dude that you want to get proximity to. So if people want to connect with you, brother, like where can they, how can they do that?
Yeah, best place to find me is Instagram. I'm at the Henry Washington on Instagram, or you can check out my website at henrywashington.com.
He is worth checking out, guys. He's the real deal. I appreciate you so much, brother. I feel like we're going to connect in the future in some capacity. I love what you're doing. Love the message, and look forward to reconnecting soon.
Thank you, bud. I appreciate it.
My pleasure. That was fun.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, I enjoyed it, man, for sure. I love the message. Love what you're doing. And I think people will benefit.
Awesome, man. I really, really enjoy talking to you. You know, I like good, genuine people. Just tends to be who I'm drawn to. And so, yeah, man, when you reached out, I was like, yeah, of course, 100%. Let's talk.
Yeah, love it, man.
We'll talk again, I'm sure. And I wish you nothing but the best, man. Nothing but success.
Same to you, brother. And I'm sincerely, like, no messing around, like the potential of like doing the hard money and stuff, like, yeah, like I'm not opposed to that at all.
Okay. Yeah. Well, let's set up a time and let's talk serious about it.
Okay. Yeah, let's do it.
All right.
Awesome, man. Well, listen, I appreciate you. We'll let Kanye and Luda take us out.
All right. All right, buddy.